So we have an old tradition in our people's tradition. I know some of you are not Jewish. It's really difficult to be rabbis not Jewish and Jewish leaders. So we have a teaching by Rabbi Nachman of Breslava, who lived 300 years ago about, most of the rabbis lived then. It was more economical to put them all in one century. And so he taught that before you study, you should chant, you should sing. That song draws down the wisdom, and in our case, the computer. Edamu Notalav Nachadu Zarko B'toch Tehumo. These are the wrong pages. Okay. I'll wait for the next page. It is only fitting that because it is Purim that to share with you one little mystery teaching about Purim that you won't hear anyplace else. It's not to leave this room. We know where you live. We will come and get you. You know, Purim happens in a moon, in a month that's right before springtime, Chodesh HaAviv. And so it is a very scary month for anyone who plants, because there's no guarantee that all that work you put into the earth in the autumn will give forth anything in the spring. And now you come closer to that time. The spring is coming, the Chodesh HaAviv is coming, and the anxiety begins to grow. During the winter, you dream, you hope, you pray, but now that we're at the brink of it, we're standing at the eastern shore of the Jordan River, the Nahar Yarden. We don't know if we're ever going to make it across. There's no guarantee that anything we put in the earth on Rosh Hashanah into our lives, into our backyard, into our farmland, will produce. So there are two ways of facing fear. One way is to listen to an answering machine, which goes off every 5 minutes in Rabbi Zalman's house, on one floor or another. For those are messages from the angels being left for him. So one way is to let the fear creep inside you and slowly eat away at everything you've ever built throughout the winter, all the snowmen you built. The other way is to laugh it right in the face. And so our tradition says, wow, Mishenichnes Adar, when the month of Adar comes, it doesn't mention Purim in specifics. It says when the month of Adar comes, the last month before Las Vegas, before the gamble of whether what you put into that machine is going to bring you many quarters or not, that last month, we marbin b'simcha, we intensify the very opposite of what it is we ordinarily would come to feel, holding our breath, waiting to see if spring will spring forth. Anything. In the face of despair and anxiety and the uncertain, we laugh. This is the power of the Jew. That's why if you go to a Jewish museum, you will find in that museum everything that you will find in the average Jewish home. Because we're still here, because we learned how to laugh in the face of the worst possible scenarios. There are people with numbers on their arms who dance every Simchat Torah, who get shit-faced on Purim. We are a people that learned how to laugh standing on the eastern shore of the Jordan. And that's why we're not really interested in crossing over necessarily. And as soon as we finish reading the Torah, and we come to the end of Devarim, we go right smack dab back to Genesis and start all freaking all over again. We laugh into the face of the inevitable, come what might, because we are people that for whom chutzpah is not a slang, but a theology. And therefore, we are told, Ad shelo yada, the Talmud says, you should get so ecstatic on this day, the full moon time of Adar, when Adar month, the scary month, is at its fullest. You should get so ecstatic in the face of the inevitable,
take
uncertain.
A look if that's what you want on Xerox or not.
Yeah. Let me see if this is. I'm sorry, this is totally different. Maybe Punch and Bilam, because Bilam is in there.
All right.
Punch and Bilam. But don't you have Samach, like Daf
That's
Samach?
exactly what I got. The Mishnah is Samach Aleph.
Samach Amud Aleph?
Yeah.
Where?
This is the Mishnah where it begins.
This, I guess my folio in the Vilna Shas is different than this. This is not Samach Amud Aleph in my Vilna Shas at all, not even near it.
No, nicht gefährlich.
This is the continuation
So
of Samach Amud Aleph. But the Mishnah is, and the whole
that's
discussion.
when Samach Amud Aleph ends.
This is amazing. So we have different nuschos of the Shas.
It's all right. Give
It's
it to
okay.
me.
Punch and Bilam.
Bilam.
Yeah. Punch and Bilam. It's okay. We talk about Purim meanwhile. A little bit. Punch and Bilam. It's in the very beginning, right after the Mishnah.
Good.
The Mishnah says, Minohani mili mi Bilam arasha. Or if you just have a normal Talmud, I could find it very easily. There you go, one big fat sucker you got over there. That we get so ecstatic on Purim that we're not supposed to, we blur the boundaries. We blur the boundaries of good and bad, meaning we blur the boundaries of whether I'm going to get what I seeded or whether I don't. I don't really care, do I? Because the whole theme throughout the Torah itself is the question that we're each asked all the time. Are you who you are because of what you have? Or are you who you are in spite of what you have? So Avraham Avinu is given everything, and then everything is asked back. That's the whole test. This the Vilna?
Show me. That's not the Vilna, but you can find it here. This is where it begins.
Okay. Yes. What if there's a bias? Yeah, that's. Listen. This is Samachis. Okay. Didn't bring my reading glasses. Samach. Okay. Samach. Die. You have a magnifying glass. Where's Samach? Samach.
Here's the Mishnah.
Here it is, right here.
This Mishnah.
Yes. Lo Yiftach Elam Chotzer, that's the one.
Good. And that's all you want from one Mishnah to the other?
Yeah, that's it.
Good. So I'll enlarge this
Aye,
one here so
please.
you don't have to punch
Aye. Aye, my eyes. Aye. High-tech rabbis. We blur the boundaries. Everybody gets dressed as something that they're not. In other words, we move out of the fixation on having to get exactly how and what we anticipate. This, by the way, these teachings about Purim will relate to the teaching of Baba Batra, because we Jews are skilled in connecting anything to anything. And so everything turns around in the story, as you know. L'chaim, vayhipim yachashverosh, hu achashverosh, ha'olech mihodu yakusher, v'amesrim me'amedina, v'yigishem esmalech, right? So the whole story, l'chaim. So it's a Jewish house. In a Hindu house, it's quiet. Nobody sneezes, nobody coughs, nobody clears their throat, nobody moves a chair. But in Jewish homes, there's always, inside stuff coming out. We're very reflective people, very heart-oriented, and as well as other parts of our insides. So in that story, it's beautiful. People complain, all the killing that goes on at the end. Everybody's killing everybody, So what's wrong with that? Let them kill. Give us a little break. Why can't we kill once in a while? Everybody's allowed to kill us, but we're not allowed to kill anybody else. And the beautiful part of the killing is that at the end of the Megillah, Esther realizes that, we gotta tone that down a little bit. So she said, from now on, we do not celebrate Purim by going out and killing the anti-Semites. Right? She says, what do you do in Purim? Opposite. You give food to the poor, you give and you give gifts, ish l're'ehu, everyone to their friend gives gifts, right? So instead of celebrating the victory over the enemy, Esther turns it around at the end of the book and says, that's sweet, but now let's make sure that we don't make Purim that kind of reminder, but turn it into a day where we celebrate not the victory over our enemy, but the rise of our humanity above that. And so Purim is celebrated very differently than what happens in the story. It's all turned around. This is the gift that Esther leaves with us at the end of the Megillah. And very few people focus on. And all they're focusing on is the politically incorrect revenge that we take on our enemies who were given permission to come at us and slaughter us. But killing is very good every now and then. It's a good thing. It feels good. It's a male thing. Men need an outlet. Blood is important. Women menstruate, men don't. So we go out and kill every now and then. Our ancestors would turn to their wives and say, "Honey, my sword, please, and some tampons," and go out to war. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to kill. To die is a big deal. So what does this have to do with Baba Basra? With this teaching in the Mishnah that you're going to get now? This Mishnah relates very much to this part of the Purim story, to this important aspect of the Purim story. Because again, Purim story is letting go of expectation. L'chaim!
L'chaim v'levrocha.
Amen. Right? Let go of expectations. Springtime is coming. I expect the seeds that I planted on Sukkot to come forth, and I'm going to let go of that. And that's what this Mishnah is all about, although it doesn't seem that way in the beginning. But nothing is what it seems now, is it? What's that? Heart pacer?
Just leave it.
Oh, okay. So all the boundaries are blurred on Purim. Now we go into the teaching about boundaries. If Purim is about blurring the boundaries, let's look into this Mishnah and discover what is the meaning of boundaries. So the Mishnah begins right next to that hole. See the hole on the left? Okay, this is an ancient Jewish hole. It used to be in the Talmud, then they moved it to bagels.
And if you go through that hole, you can find on page Zion Dalit.
Through the looking glass.
Lo yiftach adam chatzeroisav lechatzer hashutfim. You know? לקח בייס בחוצר אחרת, לא יפתחנו בחוצר השותפין, בונה עלייה על גבי בייסו, לא יפתחנו לחוצר, and so on and so forth. That's not the one I want. Go down to the next Mishnah. Down the page without the holes, okay? I knew there was a reason for the holes. לא יפתח אדם לחוצר השותפין פסח כנגד פסח, וחלון כנגד חלון. You should not, if you're sharing a neighborhood, you should not create or build or design your door and open. You keep your door open, facing the door or the window of your neighbor. Hoya koton lo yasenu gadol. If you had a little window, a little door, don't make a big one out of it, right? Or if the guy had a big one, had a small one, and you should not have a bigger one, and you had a bigger one, you should not have a small one. You know, echod lo yasenu shnayim. If you had one door, don't make two doors. If everybody has one door, don't make two doors, so that you can see more of their house. But if it happens that there is a public thoroughfare between the buildings, then it's okay. The Mishnah says why? Because the Mishnah doesn't tell us, but I'll tell you. And the Gemara tells us, and the Meiri tells us, Pesach connected Pesach, Chalon connected Chalon. You could do your door opposite their door, open their door, your door facing their door, their window facing their window. It's not a big deal. If you had a small window, you can make a big window. If you had a little door, you can make a big door. Everything. You had one door, you can make two doors. Not a big deal if there is a public thoroughfare in between. Why? So the Meiri tells us, Rabbi Meir, in the 13th century or so, he says because you know, and I think Rashi also talks about that, but Rashi is over here, and on the right side.
Off limits.
Off the boundary. Off limits, exactly. So Rashi also points this out, that...
he was not pointing to the Rishus Harabim, that's why.
That's right. He was pointing just plain in the middle of the beginning of the world. In the middle of the beginning. And that's the Rishus Harabim. So the Rishus Harabim, the public thoroughfare, is, you know, everybody's walking by there and looking in and looking out, and so it's not like any particular direct access of vision there. And the Meiri has a very interesting way of talking about this. He calls it Re'iyah Hezek, an injurious looking.
And injures privacy.
Yes, exactly. And injurious, and injuring their privacy. But there's something very deep about that. You know, we could look at someone or their property injuriously. You can hurt somebody the way you look at them. And so, you know, hezek re'iyah, there's such a thing as not just injuring somebody with your hands or with your club, but also with the way you look at them, or the way you look at their house, the way you look inside their space.
It's like insider information.
That's right. That's right. Spyware.
Yeah.
This is the origin of spyware that they stole from our
It's
people.
anti-spyware, this Mishnah.
Right, exactly. The Mishnah here is anti-spyware. You know? And so now the Gemara says, Minohane mili. See what it says, gm. So the gm says, Minohane mili. God forbid I should put a resh and an aleph there, you know. It would like spoil the entire page. Minohane mili. How do we know all this? Because, you know, it's a nice thing that the teachers came up with, but we always like to connect it to the teachings of to the teachings of Moses. See, what did Moshe Rabbeinu what in the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us this? See, it's just like people ask me the question, well, all these teachings seem very humanistic. Why don't we just teach humanitarianism? And why do we need this stuff for? And I say, they had the same question. They came up with these feelings from their heart that this is the proper way, but they also felt the importance of connecting that to the umbilical cord of the mothership, of giving it some oomph, because if it doesn't have a tie to something very cosmic beyond us, then it's easy to shift that. For example, I read a book recently written by a man who was obsessed with purity. It's a big book all about purity, and purity is a very good thing, but it depends what it's connected to. It's called Mein Kampf. So, Minohane Milis, the ancient sages now say, this is such a beautiful teaching from our older sages, but where can we connect that to? I mean, they must have, since they come from lineage of being inspired by the words of the Torah and its interpretation, what in the Torah did they see that might have sparked that kind of sense?
And it doesn't even have to be, expressed that way. But if the Torah uses a circumlocution that isn't necessary, like as habehem asher neno Torah, you learn from that lolam yedaber adam b'lashon nekiya.
Yeah, that's right.
You learn from this that you have to go out of your way to use more acceptable, cleaner language as possible. So we see that little bump in Scripture tells us that there was a deeper meaning. So they're saying, is there a bump in Scripture here to talk about privacy issues?
I couldn't have said it better. Very well put. I like that. A little bump. In botany, they call that bump a meristem. But if you look at a plant, every now and then there's a little bump. And in that moment, the bump then either creates a different direction of the twig or the branch, or sprouts forth another leaf. Beautiful. I like the bump. I'm going to use that b'shimcha.
You can't graft without that bump.
That's right. You need the bump. It's very important, the bump. The bump
So
is...
on what do we graft this idea of privacy now?
That's right. That's right, very good. See, that bump, by the way, the Zohar calls that bump Nekuda Satima. It's my interpretation. The hidden dot of Bereshit, of beginning, from which new things can come. Every now and then in our own personal lives, you hit that bump, and something shifts, and you move in a different direction. And people say, "Gee, you're not yourself today." And you say, "Yashikoyach." So Minohane Mili, what is the bump? They ask. Omar Rabbi Yochanan said, Omar Kro, because the crow says, the pasuk says, the Torah says, right? What does the Torah say in Bamidbar? It says, Vayisa bilam eseino vayar es Yisrael shochein lishvoto.
And he was a shaman.
He was a shame on you, yes. He was a shaman, a navi, right? It's beautiful, Our Torah constantly reminds us that as much as God is with us, God is also with our enemy. God speaks to Bilam. God speaks to everybody. It says in Amos and Andy in the book of Amos, it says, I took you out of Mitzrayim, Taka, but I also took the Plishtim out of Kaftor.
You're just like nigger babies to me.
That's right. Kushim. Kimnei Kushim.
That's right.
That's right, exactly.
Hello, Kimnei Kushim.
Hello, Kimnei Kushim. Exactly.
Oh,
This is really
look at
Wow, what an honor.
And that was in the wrong place.
And that brings our class to a conclusion. I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Great timing, thank you.
So, Rabbi Yochanan says we learn it from Bilam. Bilam, he was a prophet and the great Navi of Midian, who was hired by the Moabites to curse the Israelites. Right? So he lifted his eyes. Right? It's very hard. I never knew what that meant, lifting eyes, until I met Shlomo, Olav Shalom.
Yeah.
He always lifted his eyes. His eyes always whirled into his sockets. We always have to help him find it, and it was very difficult. So he lifted his eyes. What does it mean? Okay, you'll see what it means, lifting the eyes, because this happens throughout the Torah. He lifted his eyes, Vayah, and he saw, as he saw the Jewish peoplings, Shochen lishvatav, each one dwelling in within their tribes. That's all it says in the pasuk. So Rabbi Yochanan now extrapolates. Mara, what did he see? Big deal. He saw them sitting with their tribes, of course. Everything was labeled correctly. What did he see? So he saw she'ein pisrei alehem mekavenin zeh lazeh. He saw that their doors of each tent was not open to face the door of the next tent. In other words, each door faced the back of the next person's tent. Amar, and he then declared, V'uyin halolu, these are worthy, these people, shetishre alehen shechina, that the Shechina should dwell amongst them. And then what did he say? Rashi points out, adds to that. What did he say? He said, Ma tovu olecha Yaakov. Right? Mishkenosecha Yisrael. How good, how beautiful are your tents, O Yankala, and your dwelling places, O Israel. Which is a prayer that the Jewish people whom he was hired to curse have employed in their standard daily prayer books. In page 1. You walk into the synagogue, prayer space, you say, Ma tovu olecha Yaakov. You quote the great prophet Bilam, who was your worst enemy at that time. This is the Jewish people. This is our Purim. It's, in fact, the Talmud says, Mi b'nei Haman lamdu Torah b'bnei Brak.
Yeah.
Mi b'nei Titus, mi b'nei Sancharim.
Yeah.
Right? And the descendants of Haman taught Torah in
And
Bnei
the
Brak.
descendants of the Vilna Gaon became Hasidim.
Right. That's an even better example. Even better example. That's right. And the descendants of Sancherib taught Torah in New Jersey. I mean, there's a whole bunch of teachings like that, where everything is turned around. It's about the impossibility of impossibility.
For Purim, you can also point out that the way in which they use proof texts here.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the story where they say, how do we know that Avraham Avinu went to the Yarmulke?
Yeah.
Because it says that he went holav in a seyanik, but do you expect he went without the Yarmulke? Right? And so in this one here, he says like this, how do we know? Because he saw that the Shochen Lishvatim. So now he says, Maro, what did he see?
Mm-hmm.
And the posik is not written, right? But he has read into the posik shein with Pischem Mechavim Zelazeh. It's like the same argument, like how could Avraham Avinu go without a Yarmulke? In other words, it's not in the posik.
Exactly. It's still not proven.
No, to him it's proven. Like I remember Reb Shlomo used to say, everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
That's right.
Who doesn't know?
Well, so,
Everybody knows.
so just go to do. You shouldn't, injure yourself. That they learned that you shouldn't have too many conflicts in the community. Or differences of opinions. I mean, you have so many different things like that. It's really fun to look at. It's a time to do for God because they turned your Torah upside down. And so the Gemara says the opposite. It's a time to do for God by turning the Torah upside down. Dafka lehechas lahachis. This is
Not lahachis, harasho.
Harasha. My apologies. Of course. Harasha, which is every moment. That's right. So, but I just want to go back to this. This is a very important piece, I feel, which we find a lot in the Torah narrative. Vayisa et Einav. He lifted his eyes. You see that with Yaakov Avinu also when he's going on his journey. Everybody, Avraham, Vayisa'ena, Vayah, Vayokam, Vayaretz, like all this yoga stuff going on.
Vayisa et kolo.
Vayisa et kolo, Vayevch, Vayaged.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch. I counted 26 movements in Yaakov's piece. Vayetze, Vayela, Vayishka, Vayachalam, like the Yud He Vav He, the Gematria, it's amazing
If you look
stuff.
at it from a yoga perspective,
Yeah.
maybe really it is like lifting your eyes to the upper chakras and tuning in there.
That's right.
I mean, otherwise, what do we think? Because otherwise, God is in heaven. I mean, up like that. That's normally the way it's taught in Hebrew school, that God abides in heaven. But that's obviously
That's right. Not like
geography is faulty.
Who is that? I thought dumb blondes were dumb.
It's the voice of Esther in our generation.
That's right.
You know what I read in Rabbi Nachman recently about? He says that if we learn from the Megillah, how do you know the status of the Shekhinah, like where she's at in the moment? You listen to the conversations of the women. Like it says in the Megillah says that the Mordechai would walk in the courtyard, right, and he would listen to the Das Mashlom Esther Hamalka.
Really?
he
Rabbi
would
Nachman actually
listen.
says that?
Yeah, he says that in the Kutei Maran. Yeah, it was a Sichos Maran. One of the Maran things. I have written down somewhere. Email me. I give you the source. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. He would. Everybody knows it. So Vayisa that's a very good shot, and also to me it is looking beyond the way we are accustomed to seeing things. See, for example, so Bilam is accustomed, acculturated to see us as the enemy, especially now that he's being paid really well to do that. And so he lifted, what he saw moved him to lift his eyes, his way of seeing above the check that he got from Moab.
Because he's standing on top of a hill looking down at us.
Ah, very good. That's
He's
right.
saying,
And it's the opposite, yes.
He
And
raises his eyes.
it's the opposite of what the Gemara says we need to do when we daven. Your eyes should be to the earth and your heart to the heavens.
If you look at a person from his Gashmias, then you only see so much flesh and blood. But if you look at a person from the Neshama place, so you're Vayisa Einav, then you see differently.
That's right. That's right. That's beautiful, and that's what I think the whole teaching about boundaries and respecting the space of your neighbor is about. Because we come to each other. I'm not talking about us here. I'm talking about the people who didn't come today. They come to each other with assumptions, ready, with filing cabinets prepared to categorize. Where do you belong? Where does he belong? Where do they belong? What do they have in their house? Oh, they're this kind of people. We already come with a whole court ready to judge and assume and presume. And so here the Mishnah says, you got to pay attention when you build your house facing your neighbor, that you shouldn't have a bigger window facing their smaller window, a bigger door, two doors facing their one door, and like the Meiri points out, hezek re'iyah, that you could injure with your eyes just by the way you see something. I experience it all the time when I go to teach. 3 or 4 people walk out right away. They come in with already the judgment is there just because I made a dirty joke. And they walk out.
If you have a bigger window to their smaller window, it doesn't seem to me that you're looking in on them. You're asking them to look in on you.
That's a good point. Yeah, or you invite your friends.
Because I can have a small window, I can see an awful lot from my small window. But if I have a big window, I'm saying, look at me.
Very good, excellent. See, maybe that's the reason you shouldn't have a bigger window, so the neighbor shouldn't see more of you. Or you might invite all your friends to sit in the beach chairs and look into there in a bigger window.
Today you do this with a camera, a webcam.
Yes.
Right. That's right.
So you shouldn't have a bigger webcam than your neighbor.
Right. Yeah, and this, it's like think to go deeper into this, we need to go back. I always go back to Avraham Avinu when I want to understand the depth of a Mishnah or a Gemara. I say, okay, this is the sages. Let's go back to the first Jew, Abe. So Abe is sitting in Ur, and he's enjoying himself. You know, he's a little sunburnt. He's using a little aloe from the burns of the Ur costume. And one day a vision comes to him. Later, when he goes to visit his brother in the Haran, they get stuck there. His father's dream dies there. His father dies there. Terach, which is Hebrew for procrastinator. I looked it up in the gesture.
Moon person.
Oh, you're that's right, also that. So, Avraham gets a vision. And the Creator says, Avraham, yeah? This is the Creator of the entire earth and everything beyond it. Wow. What can I do for you?
What can I do for
And the God says, I have a land that I want to give to you and to your descendants. Me? Yes, I love you. I want to give you a land, you and your descendants. Wow, thank you. I will direct you. You just go. Follow your heart. All right, all right. So first thing Avraham does is he runs to the library of Ur. Big library, Mesopotamia, and he takes out
Clay tablet.
right, and the 65-pound pages. He turns them. Gets out a book on lands of the world. Because after all, this is the Creator of the world, and who knows what kind of, he'd like to see what kind of land, what the options are. And he turns the page, he can't believe it. Ireland, lush green, waterfalls galore and streams, New Zealand. Oh, the high cliffs and the rushing ocean waters crashing against the rocks. Western Montana, the Amazon. Oh my God, he says, look at this lush, the wetness, the green, the beauty, the mist going across the mountains. Oh, I can't wait to see what this God has in mind for me. The Creator of all these lands is definitely going to pick something out of this book. Or maybe something even better that I don't even see in this book. Oh, and he's anticipating and expecting, and he follows the voice, and he ends up in Canaan.
It's a land where you don't have much except milk from a few goats and honey from some bees.
Then that's what Rabbi Nachman calls it, Kan Oni.
Yeah.
Kan Oni, he says. Here it is
Kan
poor.
Oni.
Kan Oni, here there's nothing. It's poor.
Kan Oni.
Kan Oni, you know, he went there for a few days. He went back to the pogroms. He couldn't take it. You know, Jews always go where they hate them most. You know. Honey, I hear they hate us in Russia. Good, let's go. Not a single Jew settled in the Amazon. You know, they all settled. We all kept going back to where they expelled us. You know, they expelled us from Munich in the 11th century, and the 12th century, and the 13th century. So we must have gone back again and again and again and again. Wherever they expelled us, we kept coming back again. You know, like a boomerang. But we didn't go to Australia never.
The largest Israeli population in Europe is Berlin.
See what I mean? Unbelievable.
Strange.
We are funny people. We are Purim people. We do everything umvent. Umvent is Danish for backwards. So Avraham gets there. He's in Canaan. He looks around. This. I know you have better places than this. And God says, "How do you like it?" Avraham says, "It's all right. It's nice. Lots of hills. Lots of rocks. Lots of rocks. This might be good for my art collection."
It's good for altar building.
Yeah, that's right. I build you an altar, that's right. And then Avraham says to God, "Listen, we're going to leave our tents here, but me and Sarah, we're going down to Egypt to get something to eat. If you don't mind. And drink. A 7-Up maybe. And then we'll come back here sometime." It's interesting, if you read the story, you see that Paro had to kick them out. By Goresh or something. He drove them out. We don't want to go back. Get out of my land. No, don't send us back to the promised land. Please. Please. So Paro gave them a lot of food and water and sent them away. You know, and when we went back with Yaakov, we stayed for, lots of years before they made us slaves. We wouldn't go back. It's a horrible place. That's why Moshe didn't want to take them back there. 40 years he wandered around. We're almost there. We're almost there. Not quite, but almost. Almost there.
And the people kept saying, are we there yet?
Are we there yet? How about now? It's amazing. So this is what this is about. This is what Purim is about. How? I don't know, but figure it out. Because it's about honoring the space of the other. That we are taught in the stories in the Torah in relationship between ourselves and the Ribono Shel Olam. If God steps back to allow me to have space to be human through the tzimtzum, I need to step back to allow God to be God. Lo machshavosai kemachshavosechem. My thoughts are not like your thoughts. Isaiah quotes God during an interview. Gova shamayim me'aretz ken gova ma'asai mimasechem. Like the distance between heaven and earth, so is my ways from your ways. So this is like one of the challenges that the first Hebrew gets, the first Jewish version of the Hebrew gets, is that my expectation of the other is moot. It's moot. My expectation of what kind of gift you will give me, I need to step back from that. I need to not build my window facing your window in the way that I could do hezek re'iyah, injurious visioning, meaning looking into you from the place that I come from with my expectations. I mean, davening is all about that. We daven, we ask, we don't get. And often in the not getting, we do get eventually, but we don't realize. Sometimes the bracha comes by us, or we're looking over there, because we expected it last week at 3:30 on a Tuesday, and it got here on a Thursday at 4, when we have other things to do. And throughout the stories in the Torah, you have that theme, where the promise is made, the people have expectations, including us who are reading the story, and it doesn't happen that way. All the miracles, the plagues, and all that stuff. We get to the Yam Suf, and what do we do now? We can't cross. It's deep and it's cold and it's wet.
We sing Dayen.
Exactly. Right. Right, exactly. And then behind us the Egyptians are coming. The people are yelling at Moshe, and Moshe is yelling at God, and God is saying, Lama titzak elai, what are you yelling at me for? What? Because we're yelling at you because we expected that since you're doing all these miracles to get us out of here, you would do something right now in this moment to continue. We have expectations.
So Hashem Yelochem Lochem, God will give you
right.
bread. Ve'atem tachrishu, but you have to plow.
You have to plow. I like that. That's right. Very good.
Be quiet.
Where's that from? Reb Zalman?
No, I heard it in the yeshiva.
That's
But wait a
beautiful.
minute.
I didn't hear it in the
before,
yeshiva.
Ki lo machshavotay machshavotechem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Hasidic Taich goes like this: Ki lo, it isn't fair. Machshavotay, when you should daven, you're thinking machshavotechem. You're thinking your thoughts. Ubedarkechem. So I come and complain when you go your way. Why don't you have in mind the rachai?
Very good. I like that. Yeah, I should have gone to your yeshiva.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
And that's beautiful. I like that. So, and I think that this is one of the ways in which you can interpret more literally the first of the Aseret HaDibrot. Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al ponai. So usually it's translated, thou shalt have no other gods before me. But that's not what it says in the Hebrew. It says al ponai. In other words, don't appropriate on my face what I am not.
Don't put masks on me.
Exactly. Don't put definitions on me. Don't put definitions on me. Well, this is God is like Zalman. I quote him all the time. This man here used the term a long time ago. Used the term cosmic bellhop.
Bellhop?
Yeah, God is either a cosmic cop or a cosmic bellhop. Zalman said a long time ago. He doesn't say it anymore because he got in trouble. But,
But you can say it for him.
I can say it for him,
No, I found out it's she.
Yeah.
Thanks.
She.
She and not he.
And not she and not he. See, even worse. That's what the Zohar said. The Zohar says Elohim v'yema de'ila'ah. He's the mother of the above, the high mother, the great mother. Wild stuff. So don't put on my face something that I'm not. Don't assume you know who I am. In many of the Hagdamas, many of the introductions to a lot of Kabbalah Sfarim, you will find those teachings that they take the first of the 10 Commandments and employ them toward warning the reader not to appropriate literally the symbology, the metaphor of the Sephirah, and even the names, the permutations, because that limits what is infinite, that puts a name on what has no name, that pegs down what is unpeggable. So, and that's like, Tola eretz al beli ma. The earth hangs on Belima, who's a nice woman that lives down the street. Belima
Keeps her mouth shut. Bolin piv.
Bolin piv, right. Ein ha'olam iskayemes ela misha bolin es atzmo b'shas meriloi. Right? The world stands in the merit of the one who knows when to shut up in a time of conflict. So all this Mishnah is so perfect for Purim because it's about stepping back from assuming, stepping back from looking at someone with an already pre-cooked vision, as opposed to seeing things with an open vision for possibility, like Nachshon ben Aminadab, who in the story of the Yam Suf walks into the sea. He doesn't come with the given, how are we going to get across? But rather he just walks into the water, and as the water reaches his nostrils, the Midrash says, it splits. Everybody thinks Moshe did it because Moshe threw up his hands. I give up, I can't take it! And the sea split. Oh, that's wonderful. It works. And this is also about the Mishkan is also about that, a teaching about honoring the space of the other. The people are in the desert, and they see the flap of the tent of the Ohel Moed moving. That scares them because they know that he's going to come out any minute now with another commandment. That son of a bitch, he's going to come out now again. That Alta Kaka, he's coming out again with his big shtick. He was schlepping here for 2 years now, and he's coming out again. Aye, what is it now? Thus saith the Lord. And what does the Lord say this time? What can't we do? And Moshe says, well, I had a vision. God told me that we have to build a box. A box? What? Just a box. A simple box. And a box. For what? Nothing, just a box. With some empty space in there, and no one's allowed to go near it either. You can't go near this box. Okay, whatever. We'll humor the old man. We'll humor him. Right? Just like Zalman used to say in the old days, long time ago, he used to say, I wish they'd just not call me Rebbe Zalman anymore. Call me Zayda Zalman. Because if Rebbe Zalman, that means people have expectations that I have to get it just right. Zaydi Zalman, if I get it wrong every now and then, he's just a Zayda. You know, so people say, oh, we're going to humor the guy. We'll build a box. It's an amazing story how much energy goes into building this box that had absolutely nothing in it. Until later they put in other things that belong to the symbol of the box, which is emptiness. And emptiness. Can you build a space and not fill it? You know, it's like a Zen injunction. Can you build a space and not go near it? You know, it was a powerful teaching to the people about honoring the space of another. Anybody, you know, who went near it got zapped, because by the act of going near it, approaching it, you denied and violated its entire sanctity, its entire dignity. It was a space that you were not supposed to go near, because asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Make for me a sacred space, and then I will dwell amongst you wherever you are, but only if you can create that kind of consciousness where you can honor a space that you don't go near. My space. Unless you're invited. Once a year I'll send out an invitation. You'll have to wear special vestments, and only one of you can do it. And you'll be weighed down with stones. Nebuch the Kohen walked like, like before we became erect. Picture he's weighed down by stones, and onyx stones, and Garfunkel, and all so many stones. He was mamash stoned, you know. Yeah. He was stoned.
Goldstone.
And
Firestone.
And Silverstone, yeah. And Einstone. So many stones. And then we should find 12 of those. And then they tied a rope around him and said, what are you doing? What's that? Oh, that's just in case you never pega. You don't have the right consciousness. When you go into that space, we have to drag your ass out of there. It's very encouraging. Could you imagine the Kohen Gadol? What are they doing? Well, what's the rope for? That wasn't in the book. It doesn't say in Shemais anything about it.
Coming to terms with his mortality.
That's right, very strongly, It was such a sacred and powerful ritual to prepare to walk in to that space. For 7 days he was humbled. He was a janitor for 7 days,
And the night before he couldn't sleep either.
Right, he walked barefoot on cold stones, and he had to watch Bonanza reruns. It was torture. It was a preparation where he was just really honed. He was chipped away at until there was nothing left of him but the stones. And so what walked into that space now was the 12 tribes. Walked into that space in the embodiment of this person, this creature, this Kohen Gadol. And so strict were the rules about going near that empty box, that space. And that was a real powerful teaching to the people. You don't just walk into someone else's space, even with your eyes, like the Meiri puts it. Like it says in the Gemara, Al yikones odom b'soch beiso pitom. Person should not enter their house.
His own house.
His own house, right? His own house. Suddenly. Because maybe his wife is having an affair. And they discuss which window the other lover should go out. The south window, east window, west window. Depends on how close to the Chagim it is and stuff like that. And of course, this principle does not apply if you're living alone. You are allowed to enter your home suddenly without announcing yourself if there's no one else living with you.
But in shuls in Europe, they used to do that. The whole night the shul was closed, and when they would open up in the morning, the shamans would bang against the door with a wooden hammer to tell the souls and the shadim to leave. Yeah.
See, shadim are real people. We still have them around.
So it's not to take a moment to compose yourself and make the transition, and it's for what's on the inside.
If we follow this machshava, which goes with honoring the privacy of that space. That's really what's important.
You know, my grandfather, Olav Shalom, very strict and orthodox and very funny too. Great sense of humor. When he died, he left notes for his children to read at his grave that they were only supposed to open then, which cracked everybody up. It was like funny poems knocking them. So it was Slichas time. You know, you wake up people early in the morning before dawn to go to Slichas, say Slichot, before Rosh Hashanah. So he was a new rabbi in Copenhagen, and everybody's sleeping, and he goes and he knocks and wakes up the Jews. He bangs on their door in their apartments, drags them out of bed. He came to my mother's house where there was a Christian seminary student who was renting one of the rooms in my mother's family's house. And he wakes up my mother's brothers and drags them out of bed. Slichos, was schlafst du? And drags them out of bed. And then he swings open the door of the seminary student.
You
And
too.
he grabs him and he lifts him off the bed. Slichos, was schlafst du? He doesn't know who he is. And throws him down on the bed. And that morning, you know, Carl is sitting at the breakfast table, shaking. My mother asks him, you know, she's serving him breakfast, and said, you know, she's like a teenager, and says, "What? Is something wrong, Carl? You don't look very good. You look very pale." Says, "You wouldn't understand because you're Jewish." What? Tell him. What happened? I saw him last night. Who? Jesus. I saw him. He lifted me up. I don't remember what he said. He lifted me up. It was real. I was awake and I saw him. He was beautiful. His eyes, his long beard. He shook me and I can't believe it. My mother didn't want to tell him. And probably to this day, you know, he stands up to this pulpit in some Lutheran church and says, "I remember that day when Jesus appeared to me in the middle of the night in a Jewish home and shook me and yelled all kinds of things. He spoke in tongues." So you gotta be careful when you walk into. You don't know where you're walking into, and what you're shaking up there, you know. And so this, you know, this seeing. So that's another reason, you know, Vayisa Bilam is Einav, because he could have come and seen them in the way he was hired, and the propaganda of the Moabites and the Dolomites and all the lights and against the Israelites would have prejudiced his vision, you know. But in what he saw, something was very peculiar about that, because it was very strange how their tents were open.
Balak took him to so many different places, and each time he figured that the new perspective will let him see the flaws in it. And he couldn't, you know.
That's right. The sacrifice, the korbanos he brought, everything. That's right. That's right. It's an amazing story, you know, with the talking donkey and everything.
The Zohar introduces Balak in the beginning of Balak and says that he was a shaman himself, Balak.
Yeah.
And Ben Zippor, he has a whole geschäft about that he had this bird who would sing to him and tell him things.
An oracle bird, that's right.
Wow.
And maybe that's where, I mean, in the Arizal talks about the bird spirits communicate through their chirping. In the Shiur HaKodesh, toward the very beginning, talks about if you listen to the flapping of the bird's wings, you can hear their spirits speaking to you. It's in Shiur HaKodesh. Maybe he stole it from that thing about Balak. So, this is.
If you want to continue there, then the thing becomes really clear about its tenui.
Yeah. Which part are you talking about? The very next
when
part
you
of Ami?
continue afterwards, Hayakotten lo yasa negodel.
Right.
So warum bauchom and mema bar dalet lo yilish etc. Shekop temanu avalo bar taute. Shule bar bar shapir domo. Then he says, goes on.
means when
The Tirzah Rabbah, Lo Matzino Itztenui Minah.
Right. Let's talk about more of the tzniustic things. Lo Shvei Bartani. So when it says if it was a big one, you should not, and a small one, you should not make it a big one. So Rami Shapiro, or Rami Bar Chama, you didn't know Rami was a Jewish name, did you? There's several Ramis in the Talmud, Rami Bar Dekolas, Rami Bar Chama, Rami Bar Eliezer, Bar Dalet, Lo Shvei Bar Temni. So it talks about the four, whether it's 4 amos wide or whether it's 8, different measurements of 8 or 4, right?
Yeah, don't make it double big.
Right, don't make it, if it's 4, don't make it double big, right, exactly. The chotzer al bar tarti, the shvir ba'ava shafir dami, but anything like 2 is okay, and you can make it double to 4 because 4 is okay, it's not too big, it's not that big. And all has to do with how much openness that there is, so that it's an union of tznius, of modesty. People looking into your house, or you looking into their house. How comfortable they would be walking around in their house, being seen by you, or how comfortable you'd be by them. It's like the consciousness of me in my own space. Am I in my own space to be what I am, or am I in my own space under the watchful possible eyes of the people passing by outside in the street, or my neighbor is seeing me? There are different consciousnesses that we get into, and other people look at us, or when we're by ourselves. And the home is a place to really be able to come back to your authentic self. And my Rebbe used to say that's the point of the mezuzah on the doorpost, because you're not the same person in the kitchen that you are in the living room. Something shifts in you as you move from room to room. Something shifts in you even more radically when you move from your house, leave your house. When you go from your private space, where you behave and conduct yourself and experience yourself in one way, to when you leave that space, or vice versa.
Follow that through with Altzchom, Meladchom, and Besavicha.
Yeah.
You've got a good idea there. Continue it.
No, you do.
Huh?
You started. You do.
All right. Altzchom is easy to let go of.
Yeah.
In comparison. But Moladetcha is a little harder. And Besavicha is the hardest of them all. So that's usually they ask the question, you should have you should let go from Beis Avicha first, and that's why you leave first. And then you go Noladecha, and then Be'atzecha, Why does the Torah give Avraham Avinu the other way? And it's fine, when you find, how could you put it this way? So many Jews have been traveling all over the world, and you say, let go of Artzecha, That was easy. Moladetcha was a little hard. Eli Wiesel still talks about Siget, as moleded. And then Beit Avicha is the hardest one to let go. The habits you absorb from your parents and so on.
Yeah, like Reb Zusha has a whole thing on there, right, doesn't he? From the effects that your home has had on you, from the effects your mother has had on you, the effects your father has had on you. Lech lecha, go to yourself, go to your personal truth. And so much of these teachings throughout the Gemara and every other places are about that. That in order to learn how to live in community, and like in the next Mishnah, like not building, whether I can build a tunnel under the road, anything that affects the community, I have to first also be very aware of the gift that I am. Kamocha. If I don't like myself, then I don't like anybody else, because I determine how I love others by my own self-love. So here too, the idea of how wide my window or my door is to the view of others is going to affect how the quality of how I am in myself, with myself, in my own space, which in turn is going to affect the quality of how I will in turn reflect back.
He raises the
on others.
question and he says, look, you already had a window that was a 4Z. Okay, you shouldn't be doing an 8Z over there, but the 4Z is already enough. So why do you say you can't make it bigger? After all, you can look already into the other's property. He says, yeah, but with a 4Z it's easier to hide.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I think you were saying exactly right earlier about that. Right, you can see more from the 4Z into the AC. Exactly. So it's about viewing, about being viewed. Like the Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen, who was a great teacher in the 1700s, I think. Everybody lived in the 1700s. Yeah.
He was later.
He was later? Really? How
Yeah,
later?
He was in the 1800s.
Oh, all right. 1800s. Really? 1800s?
He was the only one who lived in the 1800s.
Yeah, he must have been very alone. Yeah.
What did he say?
Because all the rabbis lived in 1700s. It was more economical like that. So he
It
said,
was cheaper than
right.
to rent.
Exactly. What did he say?
What did he say?
Such a long time ago. I don't know. He said, just as it is forbidden for me to hate my fellow, it is just as forbidden for me to cause my fellow to hate me.
Mm-hmm.
See, so the viewing goes back and forth, how I have a responsibility, yeah?
He makes it from a intransitive to a transitive. Lo tisna et achech. Don't make a causative. Don't cause hate.
Right, no tisna.
But if you go
Like
back to
positive.
the point you were making about which is harder to leave, you have far less unfinished business with the land, right? It's why Yitzchak had to take Rivka to his mother's tent. That's where the unfinished business rested, right? I mean, even when our kids go off to college, right? It's easy, take your son, I mean, it's easy to leave Boulder, You don't have any inyan with it, right? But you need to come back to the home, right? Because there's always inyanim to deal with there, both positive and negative.
Well, I think that's the wisdom of the Akedah. I mean, Yitzchak was 37 years old at the time, right? He was, Sarah dies when they come down the mountain at 127. She gives birth to him at 90. That makes him 37 years old. And that's why Abraham took him up there to kill him. He was 37 years old, still living at home. No job, no girlfriend, no job, not even a boyfriend, nothing. So we had the wisdom back then that enough is enough. You draw the line.
That also goes for the Shiur. It's 12 o'clock.
Reb Zalman, could we make a little mishabera for Marvin?
Yes, I saw this thing. Anna Elmer Panala.
Mayor Yitzchak Ben Sylvia.
Anna Elmer Panala. Misha Berach. Avotino Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov Avotino Saruk Roch B'Lev. Hu Yivarech V'Yirapeh Et Reb.
Mayor Yitzchak Ben Sylvia.
Mayor Yitzchak Ben Sylvia. Babu Shnach Mispalma V'Bizchaz Yakodesh Baruch Hu. Yahapeh Halav. את הגזירה לחיים ארוכים בבריות גוף ונהור מעליה איש לברוך והצלוח ברוך מעשי יודף עם כל ישראל לך ונאמר
Amen.
I would like to read to you a wonderful blessing I received this morning from Rabbi Avraham Satan in Jerusalem. And it was such a delight when I opened the computer and read it this morning. I thought I should share it with everyone. So he says it is, and Avraham Satan is going to come towards the end of May to Jerusalem of Colorado. He says, it is almost Shabbat here, from within the awesome light of Purim, from here, with my awesome family. Blessings to all of you. Blessings to all our people. May Hashem protect us from those who wish to harm us. May He give us the power of Purim to shine light from our souls to theirs, to melt the heart of stone of mankind, to shine the light of truth. May the tzaddikim of all generations begin to live within us, their children, sparks of their awesome souls. May we see niflaot in our days that have never been seen, Hashem's glory, first in our very souls, and then in the faces of those we love, and then more and more and more, without boundaries, without end, with tears of love and joy, with tears of yearning, with songs of yearning and songs of joy, with hearts full of love for all mankind. Reb Shlomo said before he passed away, "This land is ours. How do we know? How do we know the owner of a house? Is it the one sitting at the head of the table, the one in the place of honor, or is it the one who is inviting you in to his house? What if someone says, 'This is my house and I will prove it to you. Nobody else is allowed in'? We know that he isn't the true owner. When Am Yisrael came back to Yerushalayim, we invited the whole world to come join us." Shalom. Beautiful.
I want you to know that Rabbi Zalman is the one who did Inner Space. He finished the big posthumous book of Rabbi Kaplan,
Wow.
Yeah.
and he himself has got lots of good stuff to say, and he will be here for 3-4 days, and on Thursday night he's going to give a public lecture,
Yeah.
and it would be really good to listen to him.
Yeah.
I also want to announce that on the 11th of April, the Sufi dervishes, the whirling dervishes, will be in Denver.
Yeah.
And
So
I had.
But that night, Reb Zalman is speaking about his new book, so why are you advertising the wrong thing?
Just like me.
Because if I could, I would go there myself.
I know. I thought we
Would you
forgot
say
that
the
it's yours.
Nigunim?
Huh?
The Nigunim on March 31st?
Yes, Hashem, I think that's going to be good.
He's
Holy
like me.
brother.
Announce it. Go
He
ahead.
pushes everything but himself. Hey, good to see you.
Oh.
Oh,
your girls.
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's delicious. Oh my
Shoshanas Yaakov, Tzahal V'Samecha,
Just one.
Just
Ve'osam
one.
Yaakov, Techeles Mordechai.
I had to wear something. I was on my way over to Eish Kodesh and they threatened you not to dare come without
Really?
something funny on.
Wow.
Yeah. So I missed the Megillah reading. You read it in 14 seconds or what? No.
We'll have one at 1 with you.
It was very nice today at
Yeah,
Eish
do we have
Kodesh. There were, Reb Zora had come,
Yeah, maybe.
That's good.
Reb Mark was there, and you know, this was the
I'm on my
community
way over there right
meeting.
now.
It was very lovely.
Yeah.
But there will be another one at 1 with Yehudis.
So,
Oh, that's right. We were supposed to announce that last night.
That's
And where
wonderful.
is that? Is that the shul?
Yeah, right there.
Great.
That's wonderful. She's going to read it.
Yeah.
How do we know that a woman can be a sofer? At least for the Megillah Batichtov Esther.
Great.
so
For Gershie, what do you have new in your bag of tricks?
I have
Thank you.
I have Miriam's CDs and I have some of mine, and
Is Miriam here with you?
yeah, she's under the weather, so she didn't come this morning. She should be over the weather tonight, I hope.
Better be.
That's what I have.
Hey, Chag Sameach.
So each one of you needs to buy one of each of her 5 albums.
And she's a singer?
Yeah, among other things.
I've never heard her.
Really? You should hear her. She's doing a new one on Gabriel. This is the thing.
Nice.
Angel song. It'll be Shamriel, Gabriel, Agrepi.
What kind of music is it?
Well, I don't know. You want to listen to 2 minutes of it?
Yeah.
Well, where's
Or
the
maybe I'll
CD player?
just take one. I'll just get one.
Where's the CD player? Where's the CD player?
Beseder,
Put this
Baruch
in the
Hashem,
CD
just go
player.
last night.
Okay.
Just for 2
Where did
minutes.
you?
Just a sample of this new one.
We read
A
part.
sample. A sample.
We liked it.
You know,
at
have her
the-
CDs?
On this?
Okay.
Very nice.
Gershon,
Yeah.
After that.
like the lady
We after
said,
that.
Yeah.
when the Shadchan said to her, I have a
Track 9.
Yeah. I have a person who is interested in you, but he is demanding to get a sample. A sample not. But I will give references.
Go to track 9.
When I can.
She
Machine has a mind of her own.
Oh, one of those kind of machines.
Good, I wrote you this morning.
I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful. It's good.
Not doing it.
It's great.
It's not going, okay. All right.
Wait.
Then you could do one. Maybe Shambriel is upset that we don't want to play Shambriel. So he's not letting Gabriel sing.
For Penny?
There are 9 different malachim on there.
That's great. So
Are you
she's,
sure
is
she's
she a New Mexican?
There are 9 different angels on there, malachim.
something stuck in there?
But it's a very powerful CD. She did it. So just do one. Do Shamriel.
Do anything.
Okay, that takes care of that. I can go home now.
Oh, 9.
Oh, 9.
May the powers be with you this Shabbos
Thank you.
and Sunday.
Thank you. And tonight also.
And tonight also.
Shabbos is first tonight.
They're working, is not working? Not working, you don't have to force it.
You gotta go and help set up at Chabad. Say Chabad.
It's beautiful.
A few minutes.
It's hers.
Oh, that's her.
How you doing? It's a pleasure to work with the machine. Thank you. We'll catch up with each other next week.
Camera.
Angelic contact. Contacted from.
Not now, Gersh, not now.
Reb Zalman, please open it. We'll see Reb Zalman with the angels.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh. What is it?
The photographer, he caught Reb Zalman speaking with the angels.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Wow.
Give Tom.
Did Tom take it?
No, it's the photographer in the wedding. I don't know how he did it, but I saw it, I said, I have to make a big picture out of it. Isn't it something?
That's incredible. Wow.
Zalman and the angels. Imagination.
Thank you.